Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Story in Action podcast. My name is Brandon Flint. My amazing guest today is Dean Cardinale of Worldwide Trekking. He is an amazing mountaineer and the owner of Worldwide Trekking, which is a guiding company based in Salt Lake City, but they guide all over the world. And I am super pumped to have him on the podcast today. So, Dean, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself to our audience and let them know who you are.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dean Cardinale. I am the founder of Worldwide Trekking. We're an adventure travel company in Salt Lake. We do trips all over the world, all 7 continents. And we also have a nonprofit that gives back to the areas that we travel to called the Human Outreach Project.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Dean.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Dean and I have been friends for quite a long time. I originally met Dean at the top of Snowbird, photographing one day. And yeah, we're super pumped to have you, Dean.
Thank you.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you got started, how you ended up at Snowbird, all of that.
I grew up in the East Coast, up in Lake Placid, New York, ski racing. Since I was a kid, went to college in New Hampshire. And after my college career, I started working in an office, and that didn't take from May till about October. And I knew I didn't want to be doing that anymore. So I moved to Salt Lake City, and I got a job at Snowbird in the forklift restaurant, and I was flipping burgers, and I had a free season's pass. So it was awesome. And while I was doing that, the ski patrol out on the mountain there doing the avalanche control work and all the stuff the patrol does caught my interest, and I ended up getting my medical certification and going and talking to the ski patrol director, and started on with the trail crew and worked my way up onto the patrol, and then became an avalanche forecaster, ski patrol director, and spent 32 years there working on ski patrol. You know, my job was called snow safety.
Okay.
And at Snowbird, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds of avalanche slide paths, one of the most avalanche prone canyons in the country. And with that, basically you do the ski patrol things. You have to, ski patrolman at Snowbird needs a lot of skills, medical skills. You run control routes, you use explosives. Some shoot cannons, work with the explosives control, the rescue dogs, all the different things. You specialize in certain areas. And after 7 years as a ski patrolman, a job opened up as a snow safety. And as snow safety, there's more than 120 avalanche closed signs on the mountain with all the sign lines that we have up there. And it's your job to monitor them, open, close them, use the patrol to run control routes, shoot cannons, do whatever you can to protect the Snowbird Village, the parking lots, the lift operations, the snowcats, the snowmakers, and get the mountain generally open, or during the day, sometimes closed terrain for the public so they can go skiing without as much of a worry, right? To go out there without avalanche knowledge, without rescue equipment, and having to make decisions on the safety of the avalanche concern. So it's a lot of responsibility, which I really enjoyed. I enjoy the high stress situations like that where you're making decisions for a lot of others' well-being.
Yeah.
It was intense. It's 24/7 because at night there's snowcat guys on the mountain, there's snowmakers, there's people restocking mid-mountain restaurants, things like that. So you need to think about where you are in the evening and what's going to happen overnight, and then where you're going to be the next day. So by some reasonable hour of the morning, you can get more terrain open for the public that are coming up there to ski.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
That's a cool responsibility, though. And I would
good
imagine,
and bad.
Well, yeah, and I would imagine so that it kind of queued you up perfectly for kind of what you ended up doing now at Worldwide Trekking, because you had that kind of level of responsibility, that safety. Before we get into that, though, I was wondering, how did you end up in, there's a lot of mountains you can go to coming from the East Coast. How did you end up at Snowbird?
I had ski raced to college, so I had been to Jackson, I had been to Colorado, I had been to Utah, Canada for ski races. I skied at a high level.
What did you race?
I skied all 4 disciplines, slalom, giant slalom, downhill, and super G. But for college, they raced slalom and giant slalom.
Okay.
And then for the USSA, you can race
You can do
the speed events.
the downhill and the
Yeah,
super
so
G.
I raced all four, but in college I raced slalom and giant slalom, and it was great to ski for the NCAA team. Was really super, challenging and competitive and all those things, and go to college and do all that. And then when I got done, I think like anybody out there in the world, you get done with school and then it's like, okay, now what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And I had studied mechanical design and business and engineering. I was working in an office, and from May till about, through the summer, and as the fall rolled around, where we would normally start to go do our dryland training, get ready for the ski season, it wasn't really happening. And you're thinking, okay, this is it. I'm looking across at a guy that was probably like 35, 40, thinking like, really, this
Yeah.
is it. And I just kind of decided that I really liked Utah's proximity from Salt Lake City, where you could basically afford to live,
Yeah.
and all the different ski resorts that were close by. So you could get a job at one of those. And I like Snowbird for a lot of reasons. You did your research. This was before the internet. This was before you could get online and look up things. And I chose Snowbird, and a lot of it had to do with like the lifestyle out here, as opposed to living at a ski resort where you can't afford to rent a place and it's really difficult. I thought that the opportunity of things was better for what I was looking for.
So that's
And, moved out, got an apartment, and a job at Snowbird, 3 seasons pass.
Yeah.
And I worked, and then at the restaurant, and then I'd ski, and then I got on with the patrol. And then my first year on patrol that summer, the fall was rolling around, and they offered me a place to live at Snowbird, and I lived there for over 17 years.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it was great.
Do they still do that, or is that
They do. They have employee housing.
Oh, do they?
For a core group of employees that are what they call like essential. Yeah. So if the canyon gets closed, you have some tram operators and some lift operators, and you have some ski patrollers and some people that can run some restaurants, some people that can help the resort function that are living right there.
Got it.
So I lived right there, and after a couple of years living up there, they offered me a place that was an A-frame that was up at the west side of Alta.
No way.
And it was just incredible. It was like a dream come true. I skied to work every morning. I put my skins on and walked home at night and lived the resort lifestyle, and pretty much stuck up the canyon a long time, enjoying the mountains, which was what I loved.
Yeah.
And there was no place I'd rather be at that point.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty epic, actually. Especially it's gotten so busy in the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah. I mean, for living up there and working on the patrol, that's one thing that now that I'll go up and ski on a midweek day, so it's not crowded, but gosh, my whole career, I never waited in a lift line. You're working on the patrol. With my job as an avalanche forecaster, I was always going to the next closed area and working at trying to get that open. So I was even rarely around the public as much, because I was out in a big bowl somewhere or out on a ridge trying to, if we opened a certain area, then I was in the next closed area trying to work on that to get that open. So we, when we're the other battling storms. Yeah, it was fantastic. Like I said, a lot of pressure. You have to make decisions based on what Mother Nature's given you. And it doesn't close like a traffic light. So you really got to be thinking ahead and reacting to the mountain, really feeling the mountain. And, you can make a lot of good calls and you make mistakes, but it really led to me doing the off-season stuff that I love to do as well.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like that's the ideal kind of background that you would want a guide to have, in my opinion.
It's a great skill set. You learn all the skills.
Yeah.
You learn decision making. You learn people skills, dealing with people all the time. You learn how to, look at the weather and Mother Nature and decide what's going to be in the best interest of the general public or the guys that you're asking to do certain things. You also get all the high angle rescue skills and the medical skills. And it's one thing to take a medical course. It's another thing to respond to dozens and dozens and hundreds of people that are injured that just crashed into the trees or just fell and got hurt or jumped a cliff and came up
Yeah.
short or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. So you definitely get a lot of those skills that help you guide people in the field. So I started guiding early on while
Yeah,
I was
so
there.
yeah, how did that evolution happen? So you were up at Snowbird. Like when did those opportunities start coming up with like did you start I guess what I was wondering was did you just start kind of climbing mountains on your own and doing your own thing?
The evolution kind of starts because you get skills that give you the ability to go explore.
Yeah.
Right. So some people go explore maybe before they have the skills and they get in trouble. And that's where
Mhm.
we do the rescue end of
Mhm.
things sometimes. But it gave you the skills. Once you had the knowledge and the skills, it gave you the opportunity to, my second year on patrol, all winter long, I saved with my buddies and we went up and climbed Denali in
Oh, yeah.
Alaska that next spring, second spring. But the Wasatch is great. You're going to the Pfeiffer Horn on your days
Mhm.
off or across to Superior, Hogham Fork, or somewhere out
Mhm.
there on a super long ski tour. You're young, you're excited, you're out there wanting to get out there on the weekend and get outside of the ski resort. So basically, the way that worked out was going and saving what I like to say is all the money I didn't have, just like anything I could put together in those early days. And then saving up for maybe a big expedition to do.
Expedition, yeah.
But then having the ability, of course, snowbird's seasonal work. So you have your winter job
Mhm.
and then you can have a summer job there,
Yeah.
but they're kind of separate in a
Mhm.
way. So I had a good opportunity that in the spring between seasons, there was a lull. And then I usually could go do an expedition and early on start guiding things. And then come back in the heart of the summer and get some work at Snowbird. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So I
yeah.
could tap back in and make a paycheck and then go again in the fall, like October and November
Oh,
before we opened. You had that
you
other
kinda had
month and a
your
half or
shoulder
so
seasons or
window.
your adventure
Yeah. So I could
opportunities.
pick up guiding jobs there.
Yeah.
And then Snowbird, of course, there was always the Mountaineering Center up there and stuff. And early on, I actually guided a lot of rock climbing and ski touring and things like that right out of the resort as
Oh,
well, which was good. So it was coming up in all directions. I had times where I would, be invited to go guide for the helicopter ski guys. And,
oh, like
so it was
powder
just
birds and
once you
those
get the
guys?
skills
Yeah.
and you're dependable, you're making good decisions. My job as a avalanche forecaster gave me a good value for people
Mhm.
to trust and,
Yeah,
could
totally.
go guide some for the helicopter guys and guide some things for different things around the resort, pick up jobs overseas. And you're kind of a contractor. You're
Yeah.
picking up jobs when you can pick up jobs and you're going and doing them. And
Yeah.
then, of course, there's all the personal climbs. I was able to always set my sights on big adventures I wanted to do,
Mhm.
like that after that first climb in Denali, saving up and going back to the Himalayas and trekking to base camp, climbing Island Peak, going back over climbing Ama de Blanc, then climbing in Europe, the Mont Blanc and number of mountains throughout Europe, and then going back over to the Himalayas and climbing as a guide, as an assistant guide on a team on Mount Everest, and then after Mount Everest, starting worldwide trekking. So I had about 10 years of guiding, and then I decided I wanted to do my own thing, and I
Yeah.
started worldwide trekking. Now we're going into 20 years of worldwide trekking.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say. I've always thought, like, that's the ideal kind of background. Like, I would go anywhere with you and
You know,
not even think twice
well,
about it.
thank
You
you. I
know what I
appreciate
mean?
that,
Like,
Brandon. Yeah.
because I just know there's not gonna be anything that Dean hasn't experienced that he couldn't handle, and I think that's I think one of the unique things that you bring to worldwide trekking. You definitely have a solid foundation that people can trust.
I
Oh,
think, you got to be able to, a good guide is empathetic. I think that is a really important characteristic to have as a guide. To be able to, one, you have to go in there with a goal. I mean, if I'm climbing Kilimanjaro, I've guided Kilimanjaro over 100 plus times, but my goal going into that when I go this June again with a group is to get everybody to the top
Mhm.
and down safely,
Yep.
right? So it's a challenge. There's
Yeah.
a challenge there because I have 14 people or so that I need to, if my goal is to get them all up there, I got to get them up there to help me accomplish my goal. And I think that makes a huge difference. So you got to have a goal. And then along with that, you have to have empathy for the guys that are on your team because those guys have very little, if any, experience. I've taken people up Kilimanjaro that have never camped before, or
Yeah.
just are for surely unfamiliar with going to 19,000 feet and camping every night and dealing with everything like altitude. After 2 days, they're at 12,000 feet,
Mhm.
or going in Nepal up to Everest Base Camp, or on any adventure. What you're doing is taking people from outside of their everyday routine. You might have somebody that works in downtown Chicago or
Mhm.
Houston or
Yeah.
LA or the Midwest, or they are just in it for a big adventure. They're game, but sometimes you got to slow it down a little bit, and sometimes you got to help encourage people.
Well, I
It's a
remember,
balance.
yeah, no, I think I think that's awesome. So I had the opportunity to go with Dean a couple of years ago up Kili, and it was awesome after knowing Dean for a long time to actually get on the mountain with Dean and his team and see that experience. And I remember we were up there and I asked you, I said, what? Because I mean, you've done it over 100 times. It's you would think that maybe that gets boring or redundant or something like that. But I remember I asked you, so what keeps you motivated about climbing Kilimanjaro, so many times? And you said that it was, I just love getting people to the top.
It's so
No.
fun,
Yeah.
and I am lucky in the fact that, say, last year, as I went into March here coming up, I went down to Patagonia for 2 trips, and then I came back from there and I was in Ireland, and then from
Mhm.
there I was over in Tanzania on Kili for 2 trips. So
Yeah.
I do move around a lot, don't just do Kili, but no matter what one you're doing, it could get
Sure.
redundant
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But I think the people are always different. The weather and the circumstances are always a little different,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful outside. I mean, you're on Kilimanjaro, for example, you are one day in the rainforest,
Yeah.
then you're in the heath, the moorland, the alpine desert, up to
Yeah.
the glaciers,
Yeah.
back down to the moorland, down in the rainforest. I mean, over 7 days, you see these tremendously
Yeah.
different landscapes. And my local teams always keep it fun. I would, in all honesty, be glad that I didn't glide exactly one
Oh
place
yeah,
and one
totally.
place only. And I think about that with my guys around the world. Many of my guys on only guy Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
My guys down in Patagonia.
Yeah. They only do Patagonia,
Yeah. So
Nepal.
yeah.
Where does Worldwide Trekking guide? Where do you guys take people?
So if we go through the season, we go down to coming up. I'd say from here, it's February right now. In 2 weeks, I'll be going down to run a few trips in the British Virgin Islands, sailing trips. The one trip that we kind of do that's not mountain related
Yeah.
so much. And then we are in Patagonia in March and again in November. Then from there, we go over to our spring trips like Southern Utah, all 5 national parks, and canyoneering and other things down in our Colorado Plateau
Mhm.
landscape in Southern Utah. Over to Ireland, we go to the European Alps, Switzerland, Italy, France, the Italian Dolomites, Machu Picchu, Iceland, Nepal, Everest Base Camp, Bhutan, Antarctica, and adding a trip next year. The next new one will be Norway. Started it last
Oh,
year,
sweet.
but we'll redo some things and launch it in 2027. But yeah, so we're all over the world.
Yeah. So a couple things before we get into kind of like the bread and butter of what this podcast was about, which is kind of like storytelling, video, photo. I do want to talk just because you have such a cool. I know you have a million stories. We could talk for days, I'm sure. I know you were. I think it'd be cool for the audience to learn a little bit about like kind of your personal guiding adventures. Like I know you've been working on the 7 summits. Where are you at on that?
I have to finish up in Antarctica. So, just like any goal, and I think it's really important to have goals, and I think it's really important to kind of put a timeline and a perspective in them. During that, I also do polar expeditions. So I did like the Greenland ice cap crossing and training seminars on Lake Winnipeg in Canada. And then I spent about 4 years trying to put together an expedition for the North Pole. It wasn't that, I mean, literally like flying to Longyearbyen, Norway, Svalbard, the furthest most northern town in the world, and waiting it out for 2 weeks because of flight problems getting on to start our trip and then having to fly home, or like the same thing happening in Russia, trying to go in that way. So you do have setbacks. And I think when you want to achieve something that you understand that there's setbacks and know, like we say in the mountains, that mountain's not going anywhere. Like
Yeah.
I've had plenty of mountains I've had to turn back on. Cho Oyu in Tibet, China, sixth highest mountain in the world, spent 5 weeks there, high avalanche hazard, had to come back.
Wow.
And those just happened. But because of the North Pole, like it didn't happen that 1 year, and I had guests that I was going to bring. I had guests on that trip, and they were coming there, and then they were going to, following year the plan was like, do North Pole, go do South Pole.
Yeah.
North Pole got delayed. And so it's a matter of then when I go down to the South Pole, I want to ski to the South Pole and climb the Vinson Massif, and which would be the 7th summit.
Okay.
And
is that the one?
So there's just like some things that delay you, but it's still on the table.
What have you climbed so far then of the 7?
I've climbed Denali. I've climbed Kilimanjaro, Mount Everest in Russia, which is Europe's highest point, and the Mont Blanc, which is the Western Europe highest point.
Got it.
But that doesn't count as 7 summits. People are always a little butthurt about it. And so climbed Mount Elbrus, and then Aconcagua down in South America, and Karstenen's Pyramid over in Indonesia. And Mount Everest.
And
Mount Everest in
Asia. And then the only one you're missing is South Pole?
South Pole is Antarctica is a continent. That high point is called the Vinson Massif.
Okay.
Yeah, about 17,000 and change. And
is it that high?
It's high. The further away from the equator, the more you feel the effects of altitude, the less air pressure there is.
So it's even harder.
Yeah, and it's cold and things like that, but it's not very super technical. It's just like any mountain. You just have objective hazard, navigate around what you got to deal with. And
is that one the most difficult for most people to kind of get to?
No, I think it's expensive. Oh, which can be difficult for a lot of people, as is Everest.
Yeah.
But that's why I picked up the guiding career, because I wanted to do these things and I wasn't working in a position making
enough money.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
So guiding gave me the avenue to do what I wanted to do, knowing that sometimes when you're guiding might mean that you have to turn back.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just about you.
It's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it worked out. I mean, on Everest, it worked out. I did try to get on 2 teams. I was on 2 teams that dissolved before we even flew over to Nepal.
No way.
Yeah, like their funding, the sponsorships, whatever didn't work out. So the trip didn't go, and you're literally like thinking you're going and all that stuff. Then the third try, got on as an assistant guide and got over there and spent months there acclimatizing and doing all the things on the mountain that you do, and then had the summit window. And
what was the most difficult mountain, do you think, out of those?
Top
of?
I mean, Everest is really high.
Yeah.
And it's a long duration. I think there's a process there that many people don't really think about and consider, the acclimatization process. You don't just climb from base camp. You get to base camp. It takes 10 days to get to base camp of hiking, in which we offer as a trip, the Everest base camp trek. You get to base camp. Then once you get to base camp, you acclimatize a bit. Then you move up to camp 1. You rest for a day, and then come back down to base. You kind of get camp 1 ready. You move up and sleep at camp 1. Then you go to camp 2, come back to 1, go back down to base. Then you're up to camp 2. It's big
It's not a single push to the top.
No, it's like you go 1 to 2 to 3 and up. It takes
What's the
month or a
timing?
month
Is
and
it
a
about
half.
a month and a half
Yeah, our trip went long on Everest.
because of weather?
You get over there late March to Nepal.
Mhm.
You trek in, and throughout all of April, you acclimatize
Yeah.
and you get ready. So by the beginning, kind of mid-May, you're ready for your summit push.
Is that usually the window?
Yeah,
that's
it's the
best
window when
weather?
the monsoon or the high winds shift, and there's a little lull in winds up high on the ridge lines to the top, and you get acclimatized and ready, and then by mid-May you're ready. But like the year that I did it, gosh, it didn't change, and it went long, and the winds
Oh.
didn't shift, and we had to wait and wait
Just
for
wait.
weeks.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, which we saw teams literally packing up and going home, and
couldn't wait.
summited on the 29th of May. And that's like
Wow.
right there, 29th, 30th of May.
That's kind of like
by June, the first couple days of June, they pull everything out of the icefall because it gets too warm. So that's your window.
And it
In
gets
June,
too
it's the
dangerous
monsoon.
to the Khumbu ice field.
Yeah, it's just too dangerous to go through because everything's falling too quick. So it's too hazardous to go through. They pull all those ladders, and climbing season's over. Yeah, boy, we were right at the very
window.
end. And we stuck it out. It was definitely, that's where mentally you see who wants it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What does everybody do when you're stuck up there for weeks?
What we did, which was really good, is I went back to a technique I learned on the snowbird ski patrol, and that was in times of high pressure at the resort. When the ski patrols, we're not up there playing checkers. You know what I mean? You're always training and stuff.
Yeah.
When it's snowing outside and there's a lot going on, you're out doing avalanche work.
Yeah.
You're busy as hell. When you have those big windows, 2-week high pressure, we train, and we would do hasty search drills and avalanche rescue drills, all these things. So when we had that happen over there, the mind can be a challenging thing. If you just sit there, people end up roaming around camp looking for a weather forecast that says what they want to hear. So what we did, my buddy Willie, who was the lead guide, and myself, it was like, we'll train all of our Sherpa team on, emergency response, patient assessment, CPR. And then we started to go up into the icefall and set up rescue scenarios, like there was an accident and extricating people out of crevasses. Yeah. And every day we were busy.
Just doing something.
But it kept our mind, but also our body strong, because we'd go up in the icefall and do these training drills all day. Then it'd take us all day, and we were busy, and you're not up there just sitting around drinking coffee thinking like, when are we going to get the right window? Poor boo-hoo us. The weather's bad, The bad weather wasn't necessarily at base camp.
It was up high.
Yeah, base camp's 17,000 feet. We're working down there.
You could still do some stuff.
Yeah. We're looking at the 28,000 feet where the winds are blowing hard.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So it's different, but
that's wild.
The mountains decide.
100%.
So, but we can decide how we operate with them, like how we function with them, and that's what you teach your groups when you're guiding. Just because it's a foul weather day doesn't mean it means we put on our foul weather gear. And you make smart decisions, and, you don't go out there and just get soaked and cold and hypothermic. You
plan
figure out a plan how you're going to function with giving the mountain ultimate respect,
No,
so
that's awesome. Again, like, what great experiences to have as you help others up mountains. You know what
it's
I mean?
fantastic.
Like,
I'm lucky.
You know what it's like to sit there, be anxious, be excited, be like nervous, all those feelings.
Yeah.
And then just kind of waiting for your opportunity to hopefully summit, and
you feel it with your guests. There's a pressure that a guide has to feel, is that it's not about getting me up and down. It's about getting her and him and him and her up and down too. Yeah. So, there's no matter where you are outside, you can have a lot of hazard, so it's about kind of taking into consideration all those things and making the best decisions you can for your guests, because those guests oftentimes, if you do it right, they really trust you. Whatever you tell them, they'll go.
Well, 100%.
They'll do what you ask, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And that's what you're trying to build, is trust, respect, loyalty. And you have to give that right back to them. And then it's a mutual thing. And then when you have foul weather and you tell them, like, okay, here's the plan, they'll they'll trust your
Yeah.
judgment, and then you go from there.
Yeah, I would imagine that's pretty critical, especially I know in talking with you, there's been times, even when we were on Kilimanjaro, I think you said, like, there's times you can't get to the top of Kili because it's too windy or
Yeah.
it's, it just doesn't work. And they have to, I mean, I think, for someone that's invested the time, the money, the effort to get over there, I mean, you know how that feels to not be able to get to the top is pretty discouraging, but they trust you and they know that if you say it's not safe, it's not good.
Yeah.
That's not safe and it's not good. So you just got to go down.
Kili's kind of easy in the fact that, I mean, out of 100 plus, 110 or so times up Kili guiding,
Uh,
I've only had one group that we couldn't go
that you could
up to
wait
the
it
high
out.
camp. Like, we
Yeah.
had a bad wind event, and
Yeah.
it just
That
wasn't happening
wasn't,
for anybody. I have had so many people tell me it's the hardest thing they've ever done, and I
I
think it gets
remember.
underestimated a lot,
Well,
but they can do it.
no, I fact it was interesting when we went over and did it when I went over and did it with you. Kili was never really like on like the top of my list of
Sure.
mountains that I wanted to climb. And it wasn't because I had always heard it described as just like an easy walk to the top of a mountain and it wasn't
Right.
technical. And I was like, it was kind of for older people. That's kind of just what I had in my head. And
Sure.
and so when we got over there and we started climbing up there and you get up to like 12, 13, 15, you get up to that summit, you're like, but you sleep at what, 16 at the top
Yep.
before you summit?
Highest camp.
Yeah, high camp up there. You get up at 1 in the morning or whatever it was we got up and we start climbing and you're climbing through the dark and it's cold. That's the thing that was crazy about Kili is that you start at like 80 degrees and then by the time you're at the top, it's like 10. And so you're
Cold, yeah.
just like, and so I remember, man, it was cold. And then we get up there and I remember getting to the summit feeling like that was like, I felt like I accomplished something pretty awesome.
Oh,
Like I was excited for everybody else to get up there. There was a couple of those guys that were kind of struggling when we were up there and
Yeah.
they made it to the top. And I was like, it was kind of emotional. I can see why this is such a cool opportunity for people,
I mean, I do it so many times over the years, guiding so many groups and group after group, and I'll still be above Stella Point where you hit the crater rim and you're coming up on the summit as the sun's coming up,
Yeah.
sunrise time, and the sun's coming up, and I know my group's going to make it, and they don't know. They're like walking zombies sometimes,
Yep.
and they are just like thinking like any moment they're going to quit. They're all going to quit. And I'll still get tears in my eyes. I'll still
Yeah.
feel the lump in my throat, just knowing that they all push through it and
Yeah.
are going to make it. And I think Kili also got kind of a reputation, so to say, as an easy walk up. Because early on in the 80s, when it became a national park and people started to go there, the early people that actually went there, you're looking at Reinhold Messner,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
elite mountaineers,
Yeah.
first guy to climb Everest without oxygen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Scott Fisher,
Yeah.
elite mountaineer,
Yeah.
these guys going over. And for them,
It was.
it's a non-technical, it's
Yeah.
a walk up, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? For sure. For the average adventurer that's coming on a trip that's from
Pittsburgh.
not doing,
Yeah.
well, anywhere USA or beyond, it's not technical.
Yeah.
You don't need ropes. There's no hazard like crevasses or, there's no ice axes and crampons. But going to 19,000 feet is going to 19,000 feet.
And really, like you said, that very well be the hardest thing that they ever do their whole life.
Right.
And that's pretty awesome to be there. Like I think you told me that like how many times do you get to be with someone when they achieve the hardest thing that they've ever done?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty awesome.
And even, whether we're trekking through the European Alps or with a group down in Patagonia or over to Everest Base Camp, I mean, they're really lifelong bucket list
100%.
memories that these people are going to have for the rest of their life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, we should get into a little bit about. I think the first question I have for you about worldwide trekking and starting that is when I think about the logistics of all of your trips. Even just what I saw in Kilimanjaro, you have there was 12 people climbing. I was there filming. You were there, and then you have on average how many people supporting that trip?
So there's 13, 14, I guess, I bet 85 guys on the mountain.
So 85
85
people.
local guys that are doing different jobs. You got guys that are guides, guys that are tent crew, setting up all the tents, breaking them all down. We move camp every day. toilet attendants, waiters, cooks,
Yeah.
dishwashers, porters carrying gear, carrying
Yeah.
food, carrying duffel bags.
Yeah, 'cause people
Everybody's got a job.
yeah, people ask me like, "Oh, how was that, and what was it like?" And what stood out to me is just the amount of support that the climbers have that you provide to your guests. And so that's just one of your trips. You have Nepal, you have Machu Picchu, you have, you know, all these,
We
and
have
all
teams
of
all over the
those
world,
you
yeah.
have teams all over the world. So when you were starting worldwide trekking, what was the most difficult part of getting all those logistical things going and knowing what you needed, what you wanted to provide, and kind of getting there?
I think, in those days, I started my business in 2006, 2007, we ran our first trips.
Mhm.
You didn't have the convenience of touching base with my local guy about on WhatsApp all the
Yeah,
time and stuff. You didn't have that. If I sent an email out to somebody I was working with overseas and I got a response in a week, I was
you were
pretty
pumped.
happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have the communications, which now makes it a bit easier. Just
Mhm.
communications is huge. And then I think, say in anywhere that we operate, you learn, and I knew this from traveling so much before, was you have to, like, I like to say that there's two things in the world that you can't buy and nobody can give you, and that's trust and respect. And you have to earn that. And you
Mm.
can't just come in and say, "Hi, I got a business worldwide trekking. We're going to do this." And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We're going to be awesome. And, all that stuff. You got to kind of show
Put in
proof is in
put in the
how
work.
you perform and how you treat everybody and how it all works out at the end of the year. And then you come back again and you come back again and you
Mm.
build this relationship, and that is the case for anywhere I operate in the world. And, Kilimanjaro, I think that, like, big, huge crews, you learn as a guide that, when you have 85 guys working for you, just like on the snowboard ski patrol, I have this massive group of guys and
Mhm.
gals that work for me up there over the years. If somebody does something that's inappropriate,
Mhm.
not right, doesn't carry their weight, whatever it might be, they have to be disciplined in a way. There has to be some consequences, else it will just kind of spread throughout the
Yeah.
whole crew. And it's like, hey, Brandon did this and
Mhm.
didn't matter very much for him.
Dean didn't
I'll
care
I'll
about that?
I'll do
Yeah.
it too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that kind of thing makes a big difference. And you learn that all these cultures around the world have a different way of handling those types of situations. Some it's swift and direct,
Mhm.
some it's a little bit more gentle, and you learn how to deal with all these different cultures around the world and different countries and different people.
How did you find the right people? Because I know, like, everywhere you guide, everywhere you guys do trips, you have kind of a person that kind of is the
Operations manager.
operations guy for
Yep.
that
Yep.
trip. They help kind of find local people to support, you know,
Yep.
porters and that kind of stuff. How did you find those people?
So I kind of came up with the concept of having an operations manager, a point person in each place, and that actually is great because it gives them a great opportunity.
Mhm.
They get this management type position, and then they help me facilitate hiring the teams, transportation. Things have come a long way, but yeah. So it does, again, take patience because what you're doing is building relationships, eventually friendships, people that you can trust and work with and grow with. In Tanzania, for example, I had a guy that I was working with from the start, and then they steal a bunch of your tents and this and that, and then move on to the next guy. I've been with
Wow.
the next guy ever since.
Oh,
In Nepal, been with the same guy forever. Geljan Sherpa, we've been working together since the very first worldwide trekking trip. And then a lot of the times, like on a new trip, like going up to Norway this year, it was about like hiring on some local people to meet with and do some things and meeting somebody that's like, I could work with this guy
yeah,
and
yeah.
we can
You're
work
kinda
these
filling it
trips
out.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because generally what worldwide trekking does is, and a place might offer a trip, like say down in Patagonia where they
Mhm.
do the W and
Yeah.
Tourist Alpine. We don't do it that way. We
Mhm.
do it our own way. I go
Mhm.
down there and I think of a unique way to,
Make
just
that
because everybody
experience
else
different.
does
Yeah.
this to that to the other thing, it doesn't mean it's the best way.
Mm.
So I generally try to think about the guests, what's going to give them the best experience,
Yeah.
Whether it's the type of food we're eating, accommodations we're staying at, we do this our way.
Yeah.
Because I work in the field, I don't just sit in the office in Salt Lake and kind of send people to different places. I get out there and
You
see
figure it
what we
out.
can do better all the time.
Yeah.
How we can do.
But I always thought about that. I'm like, dude, that is a lot of logistics.
It's a lot all over the world.
Before we jump into your YouTube channel and stuff, I do want you to mention, because the other really cool thing about Worldwide Trekking is the nonprofit arm of what you guys do.
I was guiding, I was traveling, I was seeing these people all around the world that basically oftentimes in areas we go struggle with everyday life, just everyday life.
You're in countries that are typically pretty poor. You think about Africa, you think about even Nepal, like they're
hugely.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that if I was going to bring away groups of people to these areas, that as a business, we owed something to give back to the local communities. We're not going once on our dream adventure vacation and leaving and never going back. We're going back again and again and again. So I started the Human Outreach Project. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. And the effort in the beginning was to bring over a couple duffel bags of supplies on every trip and donate them to a school or a medical clinic or wherever. Unfortunately, some of that you see going in the wrong direction, and
people are selling it or whatever.
They're doing something inappropriate with it. So more and more, we started to take on bigger programs and really take on things as I thought was to control things from the top. You can't really control something that you're just giving supplies to, but if you own it and operate it and manage it and do everything, then you got control to really make sure that the children or the community are going to benefit from it in the proper way. So, boy, just 2 years into Worldwide Trekking, I bought 5 acres of land in Tanzania, Africa, and we broke ground the following year on the Kilimanjaro kids community. And now it's 6 acres. We have multiple buildings and children there and a whole team of people that run it all. The kids are in school. We took 3 years to build it enough to have it registered by the government and opened. And now my first children are all in college.
That's so crazy.
And we have school lunch programs in Tanzania. We feed over 2,000 children at 2 public schools lunch every single day. And we built multiple medical clinics in Nepal at high altitude and have programs in schools down in Peru. And we even do outdoor projects with kids from at-risk areas of Salt Lake City, bring them hiking and snowboard all summer. So it's grown a lot bigger than I ever expected, but it's because I like to think it's because we're doing good things and people believe in it.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I went over with you, so I had the opportunity to go over with Dean as part of the Kili trip and help out with the orphanage and the school feeding program. And that was, if anybody's curious about doing Kilimanjaro, I know, Dean, are you still doing the Climb for Kids?
Yeah, we do one every year. So usually I lead that one in June.
Yeah.
And then we take all of our kids and all of our team's kids and everybody else on a safari.
Yeah.
And the guests get to go on that safari.
So I got to tag along. I got to tag along with Dean when he did that trip. And what I remember, there was 2 really impactful things for me. It was, climbing Kili was awesome, but probably more impactful to me was actually feeding those kids and going into that school and seeing the orphanage and all of that stuff. I remember one night, I don't think I ever told you this, but I remember I got home, we got back to the hotel after we fed those kids, and I broke down crying because I just felt guilty. Yeah. I felt guilty for what I had, and to see these kids just happy, respectful, they have nothing.
We don't do it to make you feel guilty.
No, it wasn't. But it wasn't.
It's humbling.
It was just humbling. Maybe is the right word to say.
Is. They appreciate it so much. A big bowl of beans and corn.
No, and I think humbling is the right word. It's not that I felt guilty, but it was just that I was overcome with gratitude for the the amazing things that we take for granted so much living in the United States, especially, living in Salt Lake. I mean, it's a beautiful place. We have food, we have water, we have all the things that we need. And it was just so cool. The thing I thought it was, in fact, that was one of the things that wanted me to go over there and just be a part of that, was to help document that and promote that, because I think it's just such an amazing opportunity for somebody to not only have a cool mountain experience, but also give back and see the good part of like the human outreach program and everything you're doing over there. And the cool thing is, like Dean was saying, is that they do that not only in Africa, but they do it in Nepal. They do it everywhere that they're guiding. They're trying to look for opportunities to give back to the people there, instead of just coming in, exploiting it, and saying thanks. Okay, with the rest of our time, I just want to talk. So not only we could talk about mountains and cool stuff with Dean all day, but I wanted to talk about how Dean has leveraged specifically YouTube to grow his business, and kind of what that evolution was for him. And as you know, in this podcast, we talk a lot about how businesses are leveraging the power of storytelling, video, and photos to drive new opportunities in their businesses. And so for the next little bit here, I just want to talk to Dean a little bit about kind of how that started and what opportunities you saw with YouTube specifically, and maybe even just back up to kind of like, how did you start when you started the business? What were you doing at first to promote it? I imagine a lot of it was probably just kind of word of mouth, but eventually you were trying to grow an actual business and make this bigger than just you. And so how do you do that? And kind of walk us through kind of that evolution.
Yeah. So, I mean, our YouTube channel we've had for over 10 years. So we've been doing it quite a while. And I kind of wish I had started it sooner, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, it was a good thing. And my idea there was to share information that were for people to go to the places we were going to learn. Sure, for the guests that signed on to our trips, but also for just the people who
Yeah.
are out there. And I think that was what really helped in a lot of ways. I wasn't keeping it just for information. For if you paid and signed up for our trip, then you could watch these videos. It was more like just for anybody out there trying to build credibility as an expert in the area that people were interested in. And YouTube for travel was good because, like a lot of things, if you're learning about a new camera or need to cook something,
Yeah.
everything's on there. For us, people would watch YouTube if they're interested to go to a certain destination because they want to see what it looks like and what the people that are there look like, as far as like you're going to do this event, like who you are, from where you are, and how you're dressed. And I could do that kind of thing, So I started to just share any kind of information about any destination, whether it was currency exchange or how to pack or
To bring, how to
everything.
prepare, all
The
that stuff.
videos,
Yeah.
they don't have to have 100,000 views to get people that watch them, that start watching all of the different ones on a certain destination, that eventually call you or
And
send
then,
an email and say like,
hey, how do I do
like,
this?
this guy seems like he knows what these guys, they know what they're doing. I want to go with them. So I've had a lot of success with people signing on for our trips from YouTube. Probably the most success of it, anything we do aside from return
Marketing-wise,
guests and word of mouth. YouTube's next. And it was really just about sharing the knowledge to help educate people on all the questions they might have.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So I shoot a lot from the field,
Yep.
where I'll just handhold and talk about where we are, what we're doing, or show something on the area where we are. And then I shoot a lot in the studio where I'll just kind of have a certain question and talk about that topic.
So anybody listening to this, I think the interesting thing about YouTube is that it opens up, like you said, it's a perfect platform for travel and tourism. I think
Yeah.
it's like anybody that is going is looking at a trip going anywhere, they're gonna first start searching like, hey, I want to go to the Philippines or whatever, and I want to check out where's the best spots to go. I mean, we went to Europe. I took my family to Europe last year, and we were trying to figure out the best spots in Switzerland and Austria and all that stuff. And I spent a lot of time on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out like, hey, is that something I want to see? And So I think that's the power of YouTube for travel and tourism specifically. The nice thing about from a owner, as someone that may have a business in travel and tourism, is that and maybe you can speak to this, Dean, but your background is in guiding and in being on the mountains. It's not in filming. It's not
No,
your background isn't in photography. Or you're not a videographer.
no.
You're not a cinematographer. You know what I mean? So was that hard to figure out for you, or
There was a little evolution. At first, I thought I needed a fancier camera, but when you are guiding and you are going to shoot some video clips here and there, you don't have time to bust out a
no?
big DSLR, do that whole thing. You need to be able to shoot from your phone, and do that kind of thing. So go more simple, but quality's fine, good enough, and that kind of thing. It wasn't really my background. I do think that it's, no matter what the business is, YouTube has a great avenue. If you get on there and you're knowledgeable and you share your
Mhm.
knowledge, people, no matter what you're trying to sell, they're probably gonna start to trust you based
Yeah.
on what you're sharing with them. And that's where I was. I decided, I'm not gonna hold back and not share. Like, somebody could watch all my videos and
No.
maybe try to go over to Nepal and say, I'm just gonna go do this on
Do
my
what?
own.
Yeah.
Whatever space camp, sure, I'm telling them what village we go, from where
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
go, and how we do this and that. They're not gonna have the same experience, but they could figure it out.
Hmm.
It's not really our guest. Our
No.
guest says, "I wanna go with these guys, I trust them. I'll
Well,
pay the
yeah, and
extra
you
to go do it."
and your level of service is a higher
Yeah,
level
you're looking.
than just going over there and dirt bagging it through,
Yeah, we're not
on your
looking to
own.
get and I was there too, 25, 30-year-old,
Yeah.
just cheapest I could go. Sure, great, go do it.
Well,
But yeah, I think that, if you share your knowledge, then it's going to build that trust with people that
mhm.
says, like,
This guy
I
knows what
want
he's
to
talking
talk to
about.
this guy. I
Yeah.
want to figure out, I want to
Well,
go
and
with that.
something that we tell clients, especially in travel and tourism, is that there's a place to have really well produced, high quality content,
Sure.
and there's also a place for, like, the nice thing about YouTube is that production quality isn't like a super high standard, right? It just needs to you need to you need to it needs to look decent and sound decent, but it's not like, to your point, you don't have to get out a cinema camera just to shoot a couple clips. You can talk about where you're at, and so,
Yeah, I
like, that
mean,
kind of
I
stuff. So,
definitely, I think audio is super important. So that's something you can fight outside a little bit. You got to be able to
yep,
protect your audio. If you have a big wind
yeah,
static in
super.
there, it's just
It's hard.
annoying and
Yep,
people are going to shut it off. But I think, kind of getting straight to the point, kind
yeah,
of being able to, share what you want to share and putting it out there. Nowadays, gosh, a good iPhone can take good enough video.
totally.
I mean, I basically hold my iPhone out
Yeah,
and talk with that, and usually use the iPhone mic as
yeah,
well. Because when you're guiding, I literally have a few minutes here and
yeah.
there, and I'll be like, I'm going to walk off here and
Talk
record. While
about where
everybody's
we're at
drinking
real
water
quick.
and taking
Yeah,
a break, I'll walk over here and shoot a 2-minute video. And then when we get to camp or the tea house or the lodge, where maybe I'll go outside on our little downtime and shoot a little bit here and there. And then I'll shoot some in the studio and put the combination of the two together,
yeah,
kind of think,
totally.
watch what I shot and then add to it. And then I use an editor and I'll edit myself
Yeah,
sometimes. It depends.
I think you used to use an editor a lot more, and now you found yourself editing. I think you've told me over the years that you find yourself just editing it yourself
I
because it's
do.
just
Yeah.
easier because you know where you were, what place it goes in
You
the
can go a lot
timeline, and,
faster.
like, you know what I mean? You're not trying to, like, you don't spend as much time trying to tell an editor how to put it together as you could
Or
and
if
do
you
it
if
yourself.
you have some B-roll you're thinking about, exactly where to
Yeah,
find it, just throw it in
yeah.
there. So you're not takes a lot less time.
Yeah, so I think, I think, and I think we've had conversations about that, like, the YouTube channel is an amazing, it does a couple of great things, like, it introduces you and your business to a lot of people that are searching for experiences that you provide, and then secondly, it provides, trust, and, they get to see, if you're going on a 10-day trip up Kili or to Nepal, you wanna know who you're going with
You
and what it's
generally wanna
like.
like being around that
Yeah,
person, right?
exactly.
You don't want somebody that's like, "Oh, okay, this person's full of themselves and kind of annoying. And
Yeah,
where
totally.
do I sign up? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
totally.
doesn't really resonate too well. So you generally want to feel good about the person that you're
So
going to do
I
these
think
things
that's the
with.
power of YouTube for travel and tourism is that that really opens up and it shows glimpses of what that experience can be like for people. Even when we get hired, when I get hired to go produce a story or a film or an experience, I always approach it with just like, how can we showcase this experience in the best way possible so that the viewer is excited. And what we always focus on at Story Directive is just how do we get them to take the next step and take action after watching something. It's like, oh man, dude, I want my goal when we create something is to someone watch it and be like, dude, how do I sign up? You know what I mean?
Right.
How do I get who do I talk to have that experience? And I think when you combine, video and storytelling and encapsulate an experience in a way, it's super impactful for a business.
And then that's where coming across in
Yeah.
YouTube, people generally, and I talk to a ton of people all the time, say like, I feel like I know you because I
Yeah.
watch so many videos, and that's kind of nice because that's what you're aiming for is
Yeah.
give people a good
A
feeling where
comfort,
they feel like they can
a comfort
trust
level.
and want to work with you. And, then they feel like there's a little bit of a head start to getting to know each other.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I guess to kind of like wrap things up, and what advice would you give to other people that work in travel and tourism about how to either leverage YouTube or other, marketing tips that you could give them that you've found, you've been in this industry for a long time, just with worldwide trekking, even alone before that. What have you found is the most effective way to, get people to come and go on trips or experience what your business provides?
Yeah. I mean, a long time ago, I had a sponsorship through National Geographic Adventure Magazine,
Uh,
and Fran Farrell, who's passed now, but he was the editor of that
yeah.
magazine. And when I first worked for him and worked, I did like speaking engagements for them, and they gave me some ad space and
Hmm.
that. And he was one early on that said, if you don't have a positive word of mouth in this business, you don't have a business. And I
Hmm.
think that that's really important was that people that go on whatever experience you might offer generally feel like they would go again or they would tell their friends to go with you as well.
Hmm.
So you got to provide a good experience, right? I mean,
That's
the
first.
mistakes I saw
Yeah.
was if you try to get people to sign up, pay for or do your trip, and then you gouge them, nickel and dime
Hmm.
them, undersell,
Hmm.
the experience isn't what they expected. It's a one and done, and that's not really going to work out for the long haul.
Yeah.
When it comes to, you know, using YouTube and stuff, any of that experience that you get is being genuine in what you're saying and selling. You want to, know about your product and be able to speak easily about it because you're the expert, you're knowledgeable. So if your primary purpose is to make money,
Um,
you're doing the wrong thing, right? So if you lead that way, and that's what I tell my office team all the time. Our number one goal is to provide the best guest experience. It's not to make money and then down the line it's like and hope they enjoy it,
mhm,
and if you lead with providing the best guest experience, I'll be on a trip, I'll see something, we could do this or we could,
mhm.
and we'll just do it. I'm not thinking about all of the budget and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
all, we got to make money.
Yeah.
We're a business. But generally, if you lead with trying to show people the best experience, the other stuff's going to follow. right? So I think that that's the same success I had on YouTube, was being able to share more information. So I would be on a trip and I'd be in the Himalayas and I'd be trekking to base camp, and some guy would say like, I recognize you, you know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
watched all your
Yeah,
video and
yeah.
now I'm here doing
Oh,
it.
that's so cool.
Doesn't bother me, you know what
No.
I mean? I might
Ideally,
joke with them, but
ideally they were with you on a trip, but,
yeah, yeah, they're
yeah.
just coming over and doing it, or with somebody else. But if you share that information and your knowledge, there's going to be enough that comes back to help.
Yeah.
Don't hold back. Let it all rip. Give people and more than you got, and they're going to generally have enough people to come back and
Yeah.
use your services.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. Is I'm always happy to help people out, answer
Yeah.
questions, and a lot of those people come on our trips. Enough of
Yeah.
them do.
I think that's everything that I had to talk about today. I don't want this to be terribly too long, but any other thoughts, Dean? I think what I would like is, how can people get involved with worldwide trekking and a human outreach project, or how can they find you?
Yeah, our YouTube channel is Worldwide Trekking. Pretty straightforward. Our website's uwtrek.com for Worldwide Trekking, and the Human Outreach Project.org is also our website. But my email, dean@wwtrek.com. I'm always happy to talk with people or connect with people. If you have any questions about any of our trips, I'm always happy to jump on Zoom or get together and talk about getting people out there in the world to enjoy some adventures. That's something I really like to see people get outside and be healthy and explore and challenge themselves and have a good time doing it.
Perfect. And then any last words for anybody that's kind of working in the travel and tourism industry, and how to better kind of like market or showcase
Yeah.
their
What happens sometimes in the travel industry that I see, and I see it on YouTube with like travel vloggers even, is they know a bit about a place they go because they go there once and they try to learn it all in one shot and go do it and be out of there. If you are going to have destinations that you are going to sell and send people to go and enjoy, you should really become an expert in those destinations, and it takes time. It's not something that you learn everything there is about Machu Picchu, Peru, because you went there once. So becoming a true expert in the areas that you travel to is important. So I love it when people call in about all our destinations. They can ask me any question. I can generally know. And if I don't, I'll tell them I don't know the answer to that question. But I think that's the thing, is you don't want to pretend you know more than you really do. Because it's gonna, people can tell. And then you lose more respect than you've earned. So it's definitely one of those things with travel. I see a lot of people that probably
kind of over promising and under delivering.
Yeah, or they just really aren't as knowledgeable about an area, or they went there once and they think they got it all figured out. It takes time. Be patient. Really learn. It's like with my guides that guide for me around the world. You're not just a hiking buddy. It takes a lot to guide a different destination because you got to research it and learn it and read about it and be knowledgeable about it. You got to have some stories to share about it. You should know their history. You should know a lot about the terrain you're on, the types of, geology there is, and history of everything. And it takes time. And you actually have to do your studying. You can know the route, you can know where you're going, but to learn all the intimacies of a destination is something that you really should be able to share. Then you can comfortably bring somebody there.
Cool.
And have them enjoy it safely.
No, that's great. Well, Dean, thanks so much for hanging out today.
My pleasure. Thanks.
It was awesome to chat with you, and glad that we could finally put this together. Dean's an elusive guy to pin down sometimes.
Yeah, I travel a lot, and I'm home when I am, and when I do, I usually manage a pretty busy schedule.
So I appreciate your time. Good luck with the guiding season this year. It sounds like you guys have some awesome trips planned.
Looking forward next week, a week from today, I'll be heading out.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. As always, thanks for listening in to the Story and Action podcast. If you have any questions about how to leverage storytelling, video, or photo in your business, please reach out. If you have any questions for Dean, I'll link all of his information below as well, so that you can reach out to him and I can 100% endorse everything he's talking about. I've been on the mountain with him and his team, and they do things top notch. So if you're looking for an amazing once in a lifetime opportunity kind of adventure, I definitely reach out to Dean. You will not be disappointed. So, but thanks so much for listening in, and until the next episode, take care.
Thanks.